Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
I feel like he's placating a 3-year-old that just did poo-poo in the potty for the first time.
And Brandan Schultz.
I start getting a little excited, like, oh, they're doing it. They're doing it. Russell, get it to him.
Go Hawks.
This is episode 221 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. And joining me, my good buddy, Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
500, baby. Back to 500.
It feels good?
Yeah, it does. I mean, look, we knew this first 4 games of this season were going to be difficult, with three of the 4 games being on the road.
Sure.
Yeah, if I would have told you you'd be 500 after that, I'd say most people would be feeling pretty good about that. But yet, somehow, I think most of the 12s in the universe feel a lot more down about it than they ought to.
Well, there's a lot of reasons to feel down after this last game. You have the Earl Thomas injury, you have the Will Dissly injury, and you had a game where you felt like going into that game against Arizona and a team that had a really, had struggled on the offensive line. You expected the team to do better, but again, it's on the road, it's on a grass field, it's on a field that you haven't won a game in I don't know how long.
That was last year. Thursday Night Massacre.
Oh, they won that game. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, it didn't feel like a win either.
Well, there you go.
Oh, that's right. No, we keep winning there. That's the Arizona Cardinals. Okay.
Yeah, I had to correct you, bud.
I know. What am I thinking?
I don't know.
It's just that we lost the most important game there. That's what I'm remembering.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing you shouldn't remember. You need to misremember more.
I need to block that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, they get the win down there. But again, like I mentioned, on the Seahawks on grass and on the road has traditionally not gone well for them any other places, and it didn't go well for them the first 2 games. So, yeah, for them to go 2-2 between road games and home games now and be in those first 2 games, I'm feeling okay. I mean, they could go 2-2 through the first quarter. They could go 2-2 through the second quarter. They could go and then go 3-1 the last 2 quarters, and then you have a 10-6 football team, and you're probably looking at a playoff game.
Look, man, all I know is we're on a 2-game winning streak, baby, as we roll into this week to take on the Rams. So I'm trying to feel a little more upbeat than I did during the post-game show. I think it's time. Sometimes a lot of us, and I suffer from this probably more so than anybody else, I'm guessing, is the idea that I don't always completely appreciate what you have when you have it as it's going down. I think maybe we should appreciate what is working a little bit more than lament some of the things that have happened to this team and what doesn't seem to be working.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll talk about what the loss of Earl Thomas means, particularly to the secondary and moving forward. I want to talk about the offensive line in this game, and we'll preview the Rams game coming up. They come into Seattle, and of course, we have our do better and better life.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to it.
With this win against the Arizona Cardinals, Pete Carroll ties Mike Holmgren with having the most wins of any Seahawks coach in Seattle Seahawks history.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to break it.
This season.
Oh, easy now. I mean, if you listen to everybody out there, there's probably a good chance that, no, they won't break this ever. That was the last win of the Pete Carroll era.
2-14 this year. Yeah, that's fine. Seahawks are going to bounce back. Well, they have bounced back. 2 straight wins. And yeah, they did lose Earl Thomas, as we've mentioned so many times. And Carrie emails in to say, a win is a win, but it feels like a massive loss. I've had Earl anxiety about the holdout, anxiety about the Cowboys, and now it's anxiety about not having Earl. I can't help but wonder about the impact in the locker room. It's a stark reminder that at the end of the day, the NFL is a business and what players risk when they play. It stinks that Earl loses out for joining the team and not being a Le'Veon Bell. I'm hoping Seahawks management can make it right, but I think that's the last time we see him in a Hawks jersey. Interested to see on how the safety position is covered next week and your thoughts on a potential replacement. I'll be wearing my 29 at Wembley. Looking forward to meeting the pod listeners. Go Hawks, especially ET3.
I thought a lot about this with Earl leaving and kind of the effect that it'll have on the team. Obviously, schematically, that's going to have a change, correct, in the defensive backfield. I mean, there's nobody that can do exactly what Earl does. There's no doubt about that, especially when he was playing probably the best out of any safety in the NFL at the time of his injury. Now, as far as it affects the team's psyche, I honestly think this is going to be a bit of a relief because I just... The questions were constant. Well, what about Earl and his contract? What about this holdout? How do you feel about this?
Practicing, yeah.
About him not practicing. And, then Earl would have his little comments. And with the youth movement on this team, I think a lot of these younger guys that aren't at the stage of their careers that Earl is, trying to get that third contract, right? They just want to go. They just want to play football, man. And they don't want to screw around with any of this contract stuff anymore. I'm sure they're bummed out for Earl just because of they want to see somebody like that get paid and what it means for them in the future, possibly. I think overall in the short term, I think it's a relief when it comes to the full team dynamic.
Well, and Pete Carroll said, there is no replacing Earl Thomas.
No.
And Pete Carroll's a good defensive coach. They don't have to play single high safety. They can play in other ways and change that around. So, and Bradley McDougald and Tedrick Thompson playing through the preseason, you saw them actually switch up strong safety, free safety responsibilities among the two of them. And so they do have some of that chemistry there from the preseason. And I think we should give a little bit of credit to John Schneider for the 2017 draft. When they came out of it with Shaq Griffin, with Tedrick Thompson, with Delano Hill, and you're going, wow, already we're picking like, what about having Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas? What about having those guys? Well, now 2 years down the road, and those are your guys along with Bradley McDougald that are playing for time. And I didn't think it would happen this soon, but shoot, good thing they picked him when they did.
I was listening a little bit to the Sims and Lefko podcast, and they were talking a bit about kind of defensive schemes around the league as a whole. And one of the things I believe it was Sims had brought up was the idea that if you kind of go around the league, like the majority of the league is playing one of two defenses for the most part. They're either playing the Seahawks single high safety look, or they're playing the Mike Zimmer defense, which is very similar, but just some different changes in like zone coverage rules and things like that. And there are certain plays that have become staples against that defense, and we know them, right, Brandon? I mean, for a while, it was just a seam route by the tight end, just a quick little flat route to the running back. Those have been killers. And then also, we saw it. We were there personally for this game when it first was unveiled. The idea that you have two receivers on one side of the formation, and they basically cross and then run verticals. And that was they referred to it as the Seattle beater because that took them a long time to figure out how to try to contain that, and it's still a problem. So when we look at this going forward and not playing that single high safety defense and maybe having to mix it up, I think maybe that's a good thing. I think it might be time to get a little more creative on that side of the ball, and it should free up Ken Norton to try some things that you wouldn't ordinarily try because you want to play to the strengths of having an all-time great at safety.
Well, that takes us to the Arizona game. And with the defensive game plan, I was really surprised that they went so conservative. And listening to Pete Carroll after the game, it sounded like the plan was to go conservative against Josh Rosen and not try and put a lot of pressure on him right away because, having that respect for David Johnson in the running game, that they wanted to play it a little bit more vanilla and not put a ton of pressure on Rosen early, which really surprised me.
Yeah, David who?
I mean, after the game, it worked, right? So, I mean, how much complaining can I do? Yeah. But, I mean, Frank Clark, 7 pressures on the day against Rosen. So he was in there. You saw quite a few plays where he was right there and he never got to him. The only guy who got to him in this game, defensive tackle Jaron Reed.
With the Cardinals breaking the huddle, Johnson the single setback. Rosen awaits the shotgun snap. 4-man rush by Seattle. Rosen gets wrapped up and he goes down all the way back to the 5-yard line.
Wow.
Jaron Reed and Barkevius Mingo get to their quarterback, Josh Rosen, and bring him down. And that time he didn't even have a chance to read what his receivers were going to do.
Yeah, Jared Reed's been a revelation in his pass rush ability this year.
Holy smokes, no kidding.
Yeah, we thought of him very much as a run-stuffing defensive tackle. That was his rap coming out of Alabama, and he played well like that last year as a rookie, right? But he's really...
this is going into his third year now.
Is this his third year already? Holy smokes. Okay. Yeah, so he's added to his game, and it's very obvious. That's a very positive sign going forward, because if you can get a pass rush up the middle, that's the holy grail. People talk about getting pass rush on the edges. The holy grail is getting a pass rush up the middle, and Jared Reed's getting it done.
Guys like Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh get paid what they do. Gerald McCoy. Those are the guys.
J.J. Watt.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Jared Reed can, continue to develop that within his game, he's kind of becoming the guy that we expected Sheldon Richardson to be for the Seahawks last year.
Yeah. I really enjoy, that part of the development of the defensive line. But yeah, as a whole, there was definitely times where, on that one touchdown pass that Rosen had, I think I said in the postgame recap, like he could have, set up camp there and stayed for a week, and then got up on Wednesday and then, went out there, stretched, and then throwing a touchdown pass. That was maddening.
But again, it ended up working, and it was thanks to really quite a few drops by Arizona receivers, especially the deep pass that was right in the arms of, was it Williams that was going deep on that play? And
I think Kirk dropped one, didn't he?
Fitzgerald dropped one in the end zone that, hit him in the hands.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. It was good defense. The guy was right on him, but still, those are passes that you expect Larry Fitzgerald to catch. There
were a couple passes that Rosen threw that you looked at and thought, holy smokes, that's a pick, and somehow managed to snake it through there. We'll see how that evens out over the year for him. But there was still good coverage overall for the Seahawks, I thought.
And Rosen had some really good throws, too. Yeah. I was impressed with his first time out.
At the end of the day, durability is a huge concern for me with him.
Well, considering you can't put any weight on a quarterback now, maybe that's some of that durability concern goes by the wayside.
Maybe.
Well, let's give some credit to some members of the Seahawks, and that is their offensive line. Adam, I saw an NFL.com had a poll for the top offensive line for week 4. I see a Green Bay player on here. I see a Dallas player. I see a Chicago Bear, a New Orleans Saints player, and holy smokes, Dwayne Brown is pictured on here too, representing these are all players representing the top 5 offensive lines from week 4.
Holy cow.
They actually have awards recognizing the offensive lines, the best offensive lines from the previous week. I had no idea that awards like this even existed, but apparently NFL.com has been doing this.
Really? For years?
I have no idea of knowing.
I guess I hadn't searched many best offensive line articles over the last few years. So Dwayne Brown was basically the poster boy they put up to represent the whole line.
Correct.
The whole line.
Yeah, they have a poster boy from each one of the So you have Tyron Smith on here. You have Bakhtiari from Green Bay. Mm-hmm. I don't know who this dude is from the Bears, but
he doesn't either.
Right.
Only his mom does.
Yeah.
Look,
there he is.
That's
he
exciting. Made it. Oh, little Jason. He's not so little anymore. Yeah. Whatever his name is. Look, I think that the development of the offensive line, I think we can see it coming together a little bit. I heard Pete Carroll talk about it in his Monday press conference quite a bit. For the first time, I don't feel like he's blowing smoke up my butt about it. Now, I totally expect that to not feel that way after this Rams game. But again, that'll be
it can feel good for you. You can bask in it for a week.
Right. I think, and after the Rams game, I think you can go back to basking in it, right? I don't see a lot of other defensive fronts that look exactly like that with that sort of talent. So what a difference to me. I don't know what you attribute it to, Brandon, but what a difference to me DJ Fluker makes.
I think Fluker makes a lot of the difference. It's surprising that you just put a big guy who's competent in the run game and actually graded out well in the passing game too.
And is talented. Right.
You put a talented guy next to Jermaine Ifedi and it doesn't look as bad.
Boy, it does help out Ifedi a ton. How many times did you notice Ifedi in this last game?
He gave up one pressure.
Yeah, I didn't notice him once.
No, I went back.
That's my favorite version of Jermaine Ifedi, the one I don't notice.
He didn't false start. I think it was Fluker who did that. And yeah, so 3 pressures by the offensive line allowed this last week against Arizona. And you're talking about Chandler Jones, Marcus Golden, and
a bunch of average dudes.
Yeah, okay. Jermaine Ifedi allowed 1 pressure. DJ Fluker allowed 1 pressure. And Dwayne Brown allowed the 1 sack to Chandler Jones.
Okay.
That was where Pete was saying that Russell was actually trying to, we had that touchdown from Russell Wilson last week where he was trying to catch the defense off guard. And this is another situation where Russell Wilson was trying to do that, trying to catch the defense while they're communicating. And then it ended up backfiring. Chandler Jones gets the sack. And that's the 1 sack that they had all day. And other than that, the only other 3 pressures that were attributed to Seattle players, 1 was to Trey Madden, 1 was to Mike Davis, and 1 was to Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I think a big part of that was because they didn't take a lot of chances downfield in this game. I think you saw the 1 deep pass to Baldwin over the middle. And other than that, there were a couple of passes. I think only 2 passes that they attempted over 10 yards.
Well, when you run the ball over 30 times, you're not going to get pressured a lot.
And that's a good thing for Russell. He could survive this season.
I did not have a hard time watching Russell Wilson not get hit for a game. Like, that was nice to see. It was great to see him just, have a game off physically in a way,
right,
where he's just not getting pummeled.
And he can do things like block as a fullback all the way to the end zone.
On 2nd down and 5, takes the snap, hands it to Davis, finds some running room, bounces it outside right, down to the 10, down to the 5, dives in, touchdown, Seahawks! Mike Davis, where have you been, my friend? A 20-yard touchdown run around the Seahawks right side, and he had everybody, including his quarterback, leading the way on blocks.
I'm glad the Wyman chuckles are back. That's great. that warms my heart. But hey, Russell, knock it the
catfish
off. Knock it off.
Yeah, you think that the Rams are going to be watching that game tape of Russell Wilson blocking downfield and going, oh, you know what? When a quarterback leaves the pocket, we don't have to be so kind to him like Arizona was.
Oh, yeah. What was that? That's what I couldn't understand. Like, I see him out the block. I was like, no. And I'm thinking he's going to get dump trucked. But no, they just kind of tiptoe through the tulips around him. I don't quite get it. Stop that.
Catfish!
Stop that, Russell.
You had 1 week. You get to, you have that one block. I think it was on Bethea going into the end zone. Like, you can have that on your highlight reel now, Russell.
Well, he's had this on his highlight reel in the past. Like, I understand his rookie year. Like, I can picture in my mind the playoff game against Washington, him blocking for Marshawn downfield and having a couple of nice blocks. Look, you're a rookie. You're trying to establish yourself in this league. Like, the whole thing. I get it. That's fine. You're invincible because you're like 22. Yeah, no, not anymore. No more of that. And I was not encouraged by Pete Carroll's comments in his press conference about that. He joked about it as if it were funny. This isn't funny.
Well, I think what he was saying, he was actually being critical of Russell Wilson's blocking ability downfield and saying that really only 1 of those blocks was very successful.
Well, that's not true. I'd say all 3 of those blocks were successful because he didn't get hurt, but that's that. No more of that.
Russell Wilson on the day, I mean, a decent day overall. I mean, took care of the football, which is what you want. Mm-hmm. And when you have that kind of day running the football, it doesn't matter to me if he has 300 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. So we're racking up the rushing touchdowns this year. And after last year, I feel like we have something to make up for.
Wait, I can't have no turnovers and wins if he doesn't have yards, because yards are important. It's the only thing that matters in this league, Brandon.
Russell Wilson took care of the football, and the Seahawks able to get a turnover of their own to win the turnover battle again. They are 2-0 this year. When they win, and Trey Flowers was the young rookie, forcing the fumble from David Johnson.
Seattle with 4 down linemen. They crowd the line of scrimmage. Johnson pounds it up inside. He runs headlong into McDougal and Flowers. Did the ball come out? Seahawks may have it. Wow. They do! The ball came out. David Johnson was pounded as he ran around the left side. The officials say the ball came out. before he was on the ground. Flowers caused it. McDougal recovers.
I love the excitement from Dave Wyman in that clip. Wow.
Wow.
Turnover. Wow.
Well, it was kind of an anticlimactic turnover. It was tough to see in real time. So I'll give him some leeway there. Now, look, Trey Flowers really, I think we all have to be positive in his development to this point. In his tackling ability, his support in the run game.
Wait, is there somebody who's negative on his development at this point?
I don't know that anybody is in particular. I'm just saying, like, let's look at some positive things. I think we have a cornerback tandem now. Well, really a quarterback trio. Yes, with Coleman as well. I mean, heck, he's been a revelation, Justin Coleman. And this secondary is better than people know, even with Earl going down. And it's exciting to see this young core of secondary players move forward here for the rest of the season. I am legitimately excited to see what T2 does.
I mean, it's a whole new secondary now. And when you talk about that cornerback trio, Justin Coleman in this game targeted 6 times, only 2 catches for 14 yards, 7 yards a catch. Shaquille Griffin, he gave up the most out of anybody, 48 yards on 3 receptions. That part of that was that 31-yard reception downfield to Ricky Seals-Jones. But Trey Flowers, 2 catches, 7 yards. And that's your rookie in his 4th game. His 4th start of his career.
Yeah, gives up 2 receptions, forces a fumble, goes out there and plays pretty much lights out. I couldn't be more excited about the future of the combo of Shaq and Flowers. I mean, it's pretty sweet.
And you didn't even mention their tackling. I know Clinton Bonner on his 3-and-3 out did you?
Yes, okay. That was what I led off with Trey Flowers. Like, yeah, I mean, because just like Pete Carroll said in his press conference, it's always been a part of the Seahawks philosophy that the corners are hitters too.
And we have 2 corners that can hit, and it kind of continues. I mean, really what this defense has been about. It's why they got the Legion of Boom moniker with Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman, because those are guys who could, and Brandon Browner, guys who could make tackles as corners.
Between the 3 of those guys, Coleman, Flowers, and Griffin, like, I feel better about those 3 guys going forward into this Rams game than I would have having the Vikings corners with the way they've been getting torched all year. Not that they've really used all their corners, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. But this defense is playing better than advertised, and it's going to sneak up on some people, and it could sneak up on the Rams a little bit this week.
One guy who we haven't talked about yet, Doug Baldwin, making his return to the field for the Seahawks. Great to see him back, but you go back, we talked about the 0 for 10 on 3rd down, and 2 out of the first 3 failed 3rd downs. He was short of the sticks by just a yard on both those catches. And I don't know if it was his route, if it was Russell Wilson, not hitting him at just the right moment to keep him on his feet. But that was, I mean, you're talking about a different game if you're getting first downs in those 2 situations early on.
My God, that seemed to happen like 4 or 5 times where the receiver ran a route that was just a half a tick short of the first down.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, you gotta have better spatial awareness on the field.
And normally Doug Baldwin is the guy that you always credit for having excellent spatial awareness. So and it was his first game back. He didn't look quite as shifty as Doug Baldwin normally does. And I don't know if he was tentative on the knee or if it's actually impacting him. But I mean, it must be having an impact in some way or another, but 7 targets, 5 catches, 41 yards.
I didn't realize that he had 5 catches. It felt like less than that.
A lot of them were just short kind of dump off passes. It wasn't really until later on that I think he had the 18-yarder. But
his 3rd down thing, it was something Pete brought up in the press conference as if it had just reared its ugly head this game. And that, we need to focus on that and we can get better on that and everything. Well, here's the problem. This has been a problem all season. We are now 10 for 48 on 3rd down over the year. That's 20%.
That's bad.
A lot of that, don't you agree, would be just not doing what they said they would do at the beginning of the year, getting in 3rd and short, 4th and short, and just mashing them.
Especially on that play where it was 3rd and 6. They get the defender to jump off sides, and And then they go to 3rd and 1 and decide to throw it in that situation. And Pete did have something to say about that after the game. It sounded like that wasn't him meddling like it was in Chicago. Mm-hmm. He did say in those 3rd and 1 situations, if we're going to lose, I would prefer to lose running.
So great. It's a different coach screwing up this time. Wonderful. I don't really give a crap whose fault it is specifically, but cumulatively, we need to figure this out and be on the same freaking page. Because 10 for 48, that ain't going to cut it.
No. And you're lucky that it cut it in Arizona. Teams don't go 0 for on 3rd down very often.
Pete said it happened like 5 times in the history of the league. They've gone 0 for 10 on 3rd down and won the game.
Yeah. 5 times, I think, where they've gone 0 for and still won. And that speaks to the success that they were having on 1st and 2nd down because able to drive the field.
Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
And yeah, thank goodness that they didn't get into any 3rd down situations on that last drive either.
Right.
Did that last drive just seem weird to you? After the Arizona Cardinals missed the field goal, I've watched it 4 or 5 times, and it just seems so strange.
I've watched it all of once, so it didn't strike me as weird. I'm having a hard time remembering it, to be honest.
Well, it happened so quickly. It was like you had a Mike Davis run for 13 yards, and then you threw it to Tyler Lockett for a 7 or 8 yard gain, and then Penny picked up 3 yards, and then I think he threw it to Doug for another short gain.
And then they ran it on the last play to put it right where Seabass likes it.
Yes. And then they spiked it and kicked the field goal with 4 seconds left. And it happened so quickly, I think is part of the reason why it seems so weird. And maybe it was just because of the Arizona missing it so far, from the 45, because they had almost a full 2 minutes because they took the timeout right before the Cardinals went to kick it that final time, just to have a full, amount of clock. And really they didn't even need it that much. They spent more time with running the ball a couple times, draining the clock really on that drive.
Well, you had ample time, but still not having your timeouts in that situation is a freaking joke show. Boy, the clock management, I know I talked about it on the post-game reaction, but that's the thing that was just going into that situation. I was just like, this is why. This is why you don't just burn pointless timeouts throughout the game.
And that's not the first time this year.
No, it's not. That drives me just insanely crazy, but it didn't seem weird to me, that last drive. I mean, it's just like Joe Montana always talked about in that situation. Like, you just get first downs. You're not looking for home runs. You just get first downs. And look, if you can get a first down by running a draw play and things like that, picking up 10, 13 yards on underneath stuff, that's what you do. And you just get it in range. And then you hope your fat kicker can finally pull it together. And he finally did.
From 52, Michael Dixon puts it down. The kick has got legs. It is there. It is good. Sebastian Janikowski kicks it through. The Seahawks win on the last play of the game. They are mobbing Seabass on the field. And for the 27th time, Russell Wilson leads a comeback victory in the 4th quarter. When all look lost, make it the 24th time. When all looks lost, the Seahawks find a way to win.
Rabel with the stat. Busting out Russell Wilson's stat.
Yeah, another Russell Wilson stat for this game.
For those of you who are not familiar with the stat, they showed at the end of every game when a quarterback's trying to come back, how many times they have come back to either lead or tie a game in the 4th quarter. So we just call it the stat because it's really about the one that matters the most. Is Wyman going for most understated color commentary guy of the year? Is that what he's going? It's good! Yay!
The kick has got legs. It is there. It is good! Sebastian Janikowski kicks it through.
I feel like he's placating a 3-year-old that just did poo-poo in the potty for the first time. You're like,
yay. Oh, Wyman's been awesome. What a great addition to the booth.
Even if it's unintended comedy. The unintentional comedy is great.
That's why. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Trey Flowers with the fumble. Wow. Yeah, I can't wait for more of that this season. I hope Wyman's a good sport about it.
Hey, I mean, we're not killing him. We're not saying it like it's bad. It's just kind of funny.
That's what I mean. I hope he doesn't take it as killing him.
No, just be you, Dave. Yeah, keep being you. We love it. But Seabass did have an up and down day. No doubt about it.
Yeah, the 2 misses. And so for him to make the 52-yard, and to make it from 52 yards, talk about stats, Seabass, the most field goals of any kicker over 50 yards. And he just extended his record to, I think it's like 58 now.
I would just like him to start aiming just slightly more to the right.
A little bit more to the right. And you watched
aim right, hit left.
I don't know if you watched any of the coaches' film on.
No, not yet.
And
no, I haven't. You act like I sat down and actually broke this game down. Like, no, I told you. Like, I barely even remembered the game starting up today. Like, it's all coming back to me.
Well, so Patrick Peterson comes running in from Seabass's left.
Yeah.
And when he looked back, Patrick Peterson saw it going left to start off with. And he raised his hands running off the field.
I know.
Like they had just missed, like the Seahawks had just missed.
It peeled back.
And then it peeled back and got in. And so there were a couple Cardinals that were celebrating a little bit prematurely on that play.
I was doing the opposite prematurely because I was like, he missed it again. I said that out loud, but
he didn't.
Yeah. It tailed. It had a little bit of a fade to it. Hit the power fade.
No, that's a hook there.
Oh, for him that would be that would be the power hook. Yeah. Power draw. That was more a draw than a hook.
That's true. Glad we got the correct golf term in there for his field goal kick.
It's what we do.
As much of a bummer as losing Earl Thomas was in this game, I think the rougher loss for me is losing Will Dissly.
Glad you brought this up. I actually had some thoughts on this, but I'm curious to where this hits you.
Well, he was having such a good year. Just the more I thought about it after the game, the more I was kind of broken up that we weren't going to see him for a full season. And just that it's kind of the injury that people struggled to come back from, rewatching some of the game and just some of the blocks, what he meant for in the blocking game and not just the passing game, because that was kind of an unexpected thing from what we were told that Will Dissly was going to be for Seattle. And now, you're waiting a couple of weeks for Ed Dixon to come back. You have Nick Vannett. But to me, he was looking like the number one guy in just 4 games.
Oh, absolutely he was. He was looking like a guy that was more athletic than advertised, a better pass catcher than was advertised, had good chemistry with Russell Wilson, understood route concepts, and then on top of all of that, was a difference maker in the run game. And on top of all of that, he's from Montana.
Right.
That one was just gutting to me. And when I think about it long term, which of these 2 injuries between Earl and Will Dissly is going to be more impactful, I tend to think it's going to be Dissly's. Because you look at the injury itself, it's that patellar tendon situation that Jimmy Graham had. Mm-hmm. It was basically a Christmas miracle that Jimmy Graham came back from that. It took Victor Cruz 2 years to come back from it. Was never the same player.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, was Jimmy Graham the same player when he came back from that? Not really. He couldn't get that separation anymore. And when you look at a guy like Dissly, as far as the athleticism is concerned, yes, he had more than advertised, but he didn't have really any to lose to be super effective in the passing game. I'm very worried as to the player that we do eventually get back from this injury. If there's anybody that can do it, it's a Montana kid. Like, I have all the faith in the world and I'm rooting for it hard. But it's not just that you lose him from this season. You now have a diminished player going forward long term who looked like he could be a breakout star.
Yeah, and 2 years down the road, we'll see how he looks. I think it is going to have more of a long-term impact on the team. And just when you were thinking, what a steal they got out of the 4th round, it's a bummer.
A few of the positives. Let's look at it in the positive sense. This is a difficult injury to come back from, but we've also seen a training staff and our medical guys be able to bring one guy back from that.
True.
And still be a productive player. So if there's a roadmap there for him to get through this. And we have folks on this training staff who have hands-on experience with this very thing.
And you do have Russell Wilson and Jimmy Graham were, by all accounts, great friends. I have to imagine that if Will Dissly's saying, hey, Russell, I want to reach out to Jimmy to see how, he got through this. I bet they can make something like that happen, too. So you have a connection with a player who's gone through it and knows what to expect. And, sure. You have teammates who watched Jimmy Graham go through it, too. So I guess in that way, there is some fortune.
Absolutely.
Well, we do have a call this week from Matt in Arizona talking about this.
This is catching on. All right.
I know.
What's up, guys? This is Matt from Arizona. First things first, feel like Russell Wilson is playing safe. It looks like he doesn't want to throw a pick. I think we need to get the Russell Wilson back from 2012, 2013, where he's taking shots, he's being aggressive to look at when he can run and actually gain yards. The read option you guys talked about in the quick reaction. Got to pull it back. I feel like we can score a ton of points, but we're just not doing it. Some play calling, when it's 3rd and long, like 3rd and 8 or more, and you're just a little out of field goal range, I don't understand why you'd run the ball for 3 yards and then punt. Try to get some yards where you can at least get the first down and get in the field goal range. You don't know if you're going to make it after that, but hey, at least you're in range. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there were a couple plays that were ruled as complete passes. No one ever questioned it. But on the replay, I actually saw the ball come out. One was a little floater corner pass by Josh Rosen when Bobby Wagner was covering the receiver. I forgot who they said caught it. But as soon as the ball got in the guy's hands, Bobby Wagner punched it out. As the guy was going out of bounds, he never controlled the ball. And then once he was out of bounds, he finally controlled the ball. It was like a gain of 21 on the play or something. But just was wondering if you guys saw that. Lastly, just a funny thing. I think it's hilarious how the announcers keep mispronouncing Rashad Penny's name. I keep hearing Rashard, and I keep hearing Perry. So I think they've said it like right one time in the last few games. But anyway, that's all my thoughts. I am actually down here in Phoenix, so I was hoping that we would throttle the Cards a little bit more. But hey, at least we got a dub. That's all I got to say. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, Matt. That was well done by him, and I thought I was a fan of this catching on, but I don't know that I am because I think Matt's gunning for my job. I feel like he's coming for me now.
He's coming for you. Well, he's especially on board with you when it comes to timeouts, because I went back and I looked at that 21-yard pass to Ricky Jean Seals, and it would have been close. But at that time, with 5 minutes left in the game, Pete Carroll only had one timeout. So even if he thought that the officials got it wrong, they needed a timeout to be able to make that call at that point. Yeah,
it turns out they help the timeouts. But as far as Russell playing safe and not being aggressive, I mean, that would be more like the 2012, 2013 Russell Wilson.
2012 for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're looking for is more like 2014, 2015 Russell Wilson, where he's cutting it loose a little bit more. I think those shot plays are going to come. Listening to Pete in the Monday morning press conference, it felt a lot like, to me, he was talking about the idea that they aren't taking those shots and stuff downfield because they all looked at one another and said, okay, we just need to take a couple weeks, win or lose, and get this running game going and figure it out. Let's get that done.
Establish the team identity.
And then we can build off of that. Maybe run a little bit more play action because apparently that's the new buzzword for the week. You just go for those chunk plays and those shot plays. So I think it's coming, Matt. I think it's coming.
I think this is how Pete has wanted to play through the first few weeks of the season. Although maybe not against the Bears because he wanted to take a lot of shots downfield in that game against the Bears rather than run the ball, where I think the team would have benefited from running the ball more. So it's we all want to see the Russell Wilson from those 2014, 2015, even 2013, where we're running the read option, and maybe we don't want to see as much of that. And I
want to see Russell Wilson more involved in the run game. I want to see that badly. I feel like that's a waste of talent. Like you talked to me a little bit before we got on here about the RP or the play action stuff, and there was a video. Was it from Vincent Parker?
Parker Lewis.
Okay, there was a Parker in there. Okay.
Right.
So So Parker Lewis, anyhow, what are you supposed to gain from that when you look at that? Well, I'm not exactly sure. Yes, Russell Wilson tends to hit dudes when you run play action. Well, freaking duh. There is a much varied formational thing going on there with the play action passes between there was a bunch of I formation, there's a bunch of one back sets, there was a bunch of Russell in the shotgun. There's a lot of different variation there. I would like to see more of Russell in the shotgun and some of those plays be actual run pass options. Whether he can run, the back can run, or there's two reads on the play for a pass, and Russ can read that coverage and go. I'm not seeing enough of that. I want to see way more of that. Let's threaten the defense with Russell Wilson running. It terrifies defenses. Ask every defensive coordinator, even your head coach, Pete Carroll, what's the thing they hate preparing for the most? A mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
And we just don't utilize it.
Well, I think we did in this game against Arizona. We saw more.
Once.
It's tough to tell if it's read option or a read option fake, where it's just, the plan is to hand it off to the running back and Russell's just not going to pull it back.
Yeah, we'll never know that. You kind of get a feel for it.
You do get a feel for it based on the way the defensive end moves. If he decides not to go with the quarterback and he hands it to the running back anyway, then you can know that it was just a handoff to the running back. But you did see, I think, more of it threatened in this game against Arizona.
Yeah, a little bit. I liked some of the motion things with Tyler Lockett, too, where they were bringing him across on the jet sweep motion. They started early in the game with that and showed it a few times and then ran it with some effectiveness later in the game. I remember being like, hey, they're doing this with Tyler because they're looking to set that up for later.
Yeah.
It did work. So I want to see a little bit more motions. I want to see a little bit more of the run pass option, which is also very much like a play action pass. And we can start getting a little bit more of those chunk plays. But no, Russell didn't push it deep in this game. There wasn't a need to.
Well, the last thing that Matt mentioned was running the ball on third down. And I did go back and look in Arizona at the stats. And the only runs on third down that I saw were the 3rd and 22, where Davis ran and then Seabass missed a 52-yarder, and then a 3rd and 19 run before Seabass kicked the 40-yarder and made that one on their first drive in the third. So that was, and yeah, in those situations where it is 3rd and 8 and you only run for 3 yards and then decide to punt, at least when they got into, I think they had a 4th and 1 situation where it was on the other side, on their side of the 50, where I'm like, yeah, go for it. I want to see more of these teams on 4th and 1 when you're on your side of the field. Go for it a little bit more. If there's one thing that I agree with in terms of the guy, the stats guys that analyze this. Now, I don't know if I can go as far as
never punt.
Well, the New York Times stats say that no matter where you are, they did a statistical analysis and said no matter where you are on the field at 4th and 1, you should go for it. That's tough to make a blanket statement with that regard, because a lot of it depends on what defense you're going up against and what kind of running back and offensive line that you have.
What the score is, what the situation
so
is.
You shouldn't do it all the time.
Right. Situational football does make for variances in that. But let's say that, you are on the opponent's 43, they're 45, it's 4th and 1. With this defense that we have playing right now, with Ken Norton Jr. calling the game plans that he's calling right now, I want to see them take those risks, especially against a team coming up like with the Rams, where we're going to have to score some points. We're going to have to take some risks. We're going to have to keep that offense off the field. If we can go ahead and take those risks and convert, then that would go a long ways to keeping this game a lot more competitive. Rams, by the way, have given up. They are 4 for 5 on 4th downs. So they're vulnerable on defense. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Well, I think that brings us into our preview of the Rams game coming up this week. And if you want to catch the game, go to SeahawkersPodcast.com/tickets and look for some last minute tickets to the game there. Just the Seahawks' second game at home in the first 5 games of the season. So while the weather's good in Seattle, this is where you want to get to CenturyLink.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's when the Rams get to CenturyLink, too, when the weather's good.
Yeah, funny how that works out. When the weather's good, the NFL decides to suspend Michael Kendricks indefinitely right before the Rams game. KJ Wright still expected to be out.
at least KJ's ramping up his activity level, it sounds like. Sounds like he's closer than further away, but yeah, it's frustrating that the NFL decided that this was the week that Michael Kendricks gets suspended. We had kind of some fun in the Ring of Honor during the Vikings-Rams game about some of the things that went the Rams' way just inexplicably.
Right.
And
Adam Thielen having to come off the field for a concussion check in a critical third down.
Right. Turns out he wasn't concussed, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. No, there was a few of those things. And I feel like there was something that happened as far as a officiating call, and it was like, oh, that just doesn't get called anymore, I guess, if you're the Rams, and it just a little too few many things going favorably for them.
We got our tinfoil hats on in the Ring of Honor. It's good for that. Well,
especially with the NFL really needing this LA thing to succeed. Just all the little breaks just happening to go the Rams' way.
The 16-0 Rams come to town. I mentioned that at the end of our post-game recap.
This team a juggernaut, but
they are a juggernaut coming in. But since 2012, the Seahawks have lost a game at home by more than 7 points. How many times?
Once.
And one time, and it was against the Rams last year.
It was. We got mollywomped in that game.
Going back to 2012, yeah. Bobby Wagner didn't get to play in that game. He'll be back this one.
Everybody was hurt in that game. That was after the Thursday Night Massacre. I think that team was gutted emotionally at that time, too.
It's interesting. You bring up we talk about Michael Kendricks getting suspended right before this game.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching the Rams game against Minnesota, maybe it's a good thing that we don't have a lot of linebackers healthy and on the field facing this Rams offense, right?
I could use Michael Kendricks and KJ Wright for this game. I'd still be okay with that. But no, it is funny you bring that up. It was unbelievably frustrating to watch the Vikings again and again allow Anthony Barr or one of the other linebackers to be matched up on
Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp.
How many times did the Rams roll out 4 wide receivers? A bunch of freaking times.
Oh, yeah. And they always picked up on the matchup with the linebacker.
Right, and they did it by having the receivers in tight to the formation and very tight groupings around the line of scrimmage, and then running little rubs and picks and just switches just to try to confuse the defense, and it worked beautifully. So I look forward to this game, and I had said after the Vikings game, we're going to need peak Earl to contain this Rams team, just to keep everything in front of us.
Sure.
And now we don't have that, obviously. I was hoping KJ Wright would be back for this game. That's not happening, obviously. I thought we'd still have Michael Kendricks. That was stupid. The league, giveth, the league taketh. I think there's a shot at beating these guys, and I really believe it starts and stops with going to a lot more big nickel. I want to see a lot of Delano Hill, Tedrick Thompson, Coleman, McDougald, Shaq, and Flowers out there all at the same time. I think if you do that and keep it in an area where you now at least have safeties on these receivers running down the field rather than linebackers, and just keep them in front of you. Don't let them get over the top. Make them earn it, because you did see the Rams have to go and punt on a few occasions against that Vikings defense when they actually kept the play in front of them and just didn't give up bomb after bomb.
And holy smokes, can Jared Goff throw the bombs? I mean, and that was really the big difference in that game against the Vikings, is that he was on point, throwing the ball to the back corner of the end zone, dimes in that game. And I don't know if Jared Goff is going to be dropping dimes every game to be that accurate. I mean, that's pretty tough to keep up. He's been awful good. That's tough to sustain, though.
It is. It is tough to sustain. There could be a moment where it does come crashing back down to earth a little bit. I think that's later in the season.
Yeah.
I feel very much about the Rams like I do the Chiefs. I'm real curious to see what all this looks like when they get outdoors in the cold.
Sure.
And, I mean, we're talking playoff success and playoff football. I remember this year after year after year. There's always that one or two high-flying offenses that everybody just catfish their pants about and can't stop just gushing about it like 24/7. The national media like just wants to have their babies. Like, it's just, it's pathetic. And then we get towards the end of the year and you're like, oh, that's right. Amazing record-setting offenses more often than not don't win the championship.
You go back to the last one that really had a shot was the Patriots team with Randy Moss, and they got beat by the Giants.
The last time that happened, somebody had a real shot, was Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos.
I didn't think they had a shot in that game.
Well, turns out after the first play, they didn't. But instead of reliving the past here a little bit and just kind of taking some joy in that, but this Rams matchup, there are some ways to exploit this team. And one of the things, I don't know if you feel the same way, Brandan, is we've talked about running the ball over and over and over again and how important that is. We've got 2 games now in a row of tape of us just pounding the rock. I'm hoping Wade Phillips takes the bait on that. It's very difficult to run against this Rams front. I watched the Vikings. They had no success running the ball.
Yeah.
With, some running backs that can actually get it done. I want to see the Seahawks actually come out and throw the rock a lot more in this game, especially in the intermediate area. Take advantage of those linebackers. I think that's where our bread could be buttered in this game.
They could be setting things up nicely for this particular game. The Rams are 5th in the league in rush yards allowed per game, only 86 yards per game, averaging through the first 4 games. And then the pass game, they're middle of the pack, and they are without Aqib Talib now for quite a few weeks. Marcus Peters did bounce right back, and it seemed like he was going to be out for at least 1 or 2 weeks. And no, he was back playing on Thursday night, so he's fine.
Yeah, magical recovery.
Looking at it, though, passing yards per game, the Rams 2nd in the league, 343 yards per game. Rushing yards, 7th in the league, 125 yards per game. And their takeaway differential matching the Seahawks, tied for 4th, +4 on the year.
I mean, this is low-hanging fruit, but turnovers could actually be a huge difference maker in this game. Look, the offensive line, if they can continue on this improvement that they've been on with this group of guys, Brown, Sweezy, Britt, Fluker, Ifedi.
Pocic could be back this week, too. I wonder what they do there.
It sounds to me that they're going to continue with Sweezy. I think they really like the way this group is coming together.
I'd be okay with it. Whatever the best group is that gets the job done.
Yeah.
And if Pocic, he's versatile enough where I think he could fill in behind somebody. And I think we even talked about it going into the season, how we thought that he could even challenge at right tackle if they decided to do that, if Eddie struggles.
Well, so far he's starting to get it together. I feel like the area of the field you actually can attack is the middle of the field between their linebackers and their safeties. I'm not a believer in their safeties.
And that's why it's rough having Will Dissly gone, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a giant bummer. And the other thing, too, that worries me a little bit is Russell Wilson's strength isn't necessarily throwing to the middle of the field.
No.
So that matchup, while it's exploitable, isn't necessarily his strength. So Brian Schottenheimer is going to have to come up with something creative to exploit that weakness. How confident do you feel in that?
I could feel your voice just brimming with confidence when that came out of your mouth. I think it matches John in Louisville's confidence, who emailed in and says, "Hey guys, I, like most of the flock, am looking at the Rams game with some trepidation. I have faith that Pete and Ken will come up with about as good a game plan to slow them down as possible, given the personnel available. However, I am thinking that we may need to score more than 20 points this week. To that end, I have made a list of helpful pointers that Shotty may or may not be aware of to help as he preps for the game. Since I am sure he listens to the show, I thought I would forward them to you guys. 1, it is legal to advance the ball beyond the first down marker on 3rd down. 2, scheming receivers open is no longer considered ungentlemanly."
Wait, that's an option?
Scheming receivers open?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't just have to beat your guy. You can actually scheme them open.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's no longer considered ungentlemanly.
I had no idea.
Number 3, play action has been known to be successful from time to time, especially if you run the ball a lot. Number 4.
I think in Shotty's defense, I think they have been running it to set that up more going forward.
I think you could do it within the same game, though, too.
It depends on how you view a season.
Just the history, I guess, of the Seahawks having limited success running the ball. I think it was helpful now to have that week of tape showing how Mike Davis could be successful running the ball and the offensive line doing blocking type things.
Hey, can I ask you something real quick? Because I've yet to get an answer on this. What the hell happened to Chris Carson?
He's coming back this week.
Yeah, no, but why? What happened?
Dude, he had 32 carries in the game a week before.
And?
I think he was dinged up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Like, all of a sudden, he just wasn't playing.
Well, he was questionable throughout the week, and he was a game-time decision going into that game against the Cardinals.
Okay.
Hip. It was a hip issue.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh.
That he was ailing.
Oh, and so you were a little bit surprised that Carson wasn't even on the field.
Right. That's why I pooped all over your Twitter tweet thing about Rashad Penny having a breakout game.
Yeah, well, I spelled Mike Davis wrong. It's fine.
How in the world do you... Oh, okay. Got it. Sometimes your podcast partner's slow on the uptick. All right. What else in the email here? This is a good email.
Yeah, number 4. When waiting for longer routes to develop, Russell Wilson does not have to sit in the pocket like a frozen turkey in a shopping cart. You can have him roll out, believe it or not, either side in order to buy time. And finally, if all else fails, try Delano Hill on a jet sweep. His inability to make contact with opposing players may work both ways. Good luck and go Hawks.
That might have been the funniest one of them all. Like that's pretty good. The Delano Hill tackling is worrisome, to say the least.
He had one on David Johnson, at least that stood out to me the most, where he should have been on. There's one
on a slot receiver too that he just whiffed.
Yeah.
Completely. What about this new safety from the Colts that was a former second-round pick that they picked up the other day?
Yeah, they did.
That one feels sneaky good to me as a signing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
No, just the idea that he has a second-round pedigree. He played a lot of games last year.
Yeah, it was on a Colts defense that was terrible, so he could have...
This feels McDougal-y to me.
Okay. Well, they brought back Mo Alexander as well this week, so TJ Green is
did that happen?
Yeah, okay. TJ Green and Mo Alexander both signed to the team this week.
So in that big nickel situation, I could see a lot more Mo Alexander than Delano Hill. Thank you.
There's certain things that certain position groups are kind of expected to do just on a whole.
Kickers need to be able to make field goals.
Kickers need to be able to make field goals. Wide receivers, they need to have catching ability as a strength of their game. And safeties need to be able to tackle.
Yeah, true fact. Yeah.
It's just kind of something that goes with the job.
A little less Delano Hill on the field wouldn't be the worst thing.
And the signings, I think, point to recognizing... they've done a good job. They've recognized issues. They saw that they clearly had an issue at linebacker after the Denver Broncos game. They went out and solved that with Michael Kendricks, and so they're not afraid to make moves.
Hey, I can't believe we've gotten to this point about the Rams preview, and we haven't highlighted the mega punting battle that is about to ensue. Johnny Hecker and Michael Dixon head to head. Who you got?
Who's going to punt more?
Now, who's going to be the better punter?
Michael Dixon, he's, since we played those week 1 clips in Denver, we haven't had a whole lot of punting highlights to highlight in the show in terms of sound clips.
Wrong. I know everybody's mad that midfield and stuff, he's not booming them 65. He's only booming them 55. But his pinning people back has still been spot on.
In Arizona, he had a punt go into the end zone, Adam.
Well, oh my stars. I'm sure he did. I don't know if you noticed, but the football's a funny shape. Sometimes it takes unexpected bounces. He's been good.
He has been really good. And I think we do. I think this is the battle of the top punters in the league.
Yes.
And nobody's going to be talking about it.
This could be, to go back to Rashad Penny for a second in your tweet about it being his breakout game. This could be Rashad Penny's breakout game as a kick returner.
Well, he was back there. I wonder why they were using him more than Tyler Lockett this last game.
Tyler Lockett's lost a step.
In the kicking game, you think?
Yes.
Penny.
He looks slow. And not only that, but he runs backwards far too much. You know how many times I looked at the screen and was like, forward, Tyler, forward.
You know what? That might have been the moment that Penny started taking more kickoffs. It was after Tyler Lockett ran backwards 10 yards.
Yeah, on a couple punt returns. Yeah, forward, Tyler. Better than backwards.
Penny does have a smooth running style to him, and I can't.
And he's fast.
He's fast.
And he was good at this in college.
I can't tell if it's just the smoothness or there is some tentativeness to his game a little bit, because there was a couple moments where I thought, well, he could have just either blown into that guy or really tried to blow by a guy where he kind of hesitated. I don't know if you picked up on that or if it was me.
Absolutely. I've been saying this since week 1 preseason. The guy's not ready, and the guy's not ready because he doesn't have that confidence in the reps yet to know when to just plant your foot and freaking go. And you saw Mike Davis do that very well. You see Chris Carson do that very well. Penny doesn't do that very well yet. I think as far as kick returns, though, that gets him out in space. He gets running, gets just to feel the flow, and just go play football. If we got a big game out of him in the kicking game, because Greg the Leg is still out, they're going to have that whoever kicker, kicking. I can't imagine that he puts him all through the back of the end zone. There's going to be some opportunities.
They dropped their part-time fill-in kicker for another part-time fill-in kicker.
Look, these are all little things that do add up. Now, the one thing I want to say about this is, for years and years and years, the Seattle Seahawks have been clearly the superior team going into a matchup against the St. Louis or Los Angeles Rams, whatever version they were at any given point, right?
Right.
And nobody gave the Rams any chance, and they come in and just give us fits and come away with wins and just be a thorn in our side for no catfish reason. It's payback time.
Hey, you mentioned the idea of going for a shootout. I think this is time for a shootout, and we've seen Russell Wilson get into games like this where he's had success. Go back to the Texans game last year. Go back a couple years in that Pittsburgh Steelers game. There's games where they can win, gunning it and scoring 30 plus points, putting that up on the board. I was surprised to hear that this game against the Rams is their biggest home underdog since the New Orleans game in the playoffs, since the Beast Mode game.
No, that's not surprising. That sounds about right.
And you think about that New Orleans offense at the time, thought of in similar era as this Rams offense.
Right. Well, I think one of the guys that could really contribute to doing well in a shootout in being a weapon for Russell Wilson is David Moore. Didn't he have something like over 20 yards of reception in that game? Really, looked to be that guy that you heard all about in camp.
I think they might be tired of Brandon Marshall's drops.
I'm ready for him to stop dropping it, but I'm also not ready to give up on him either.
Oh, I'm not ready to give up on him. I would use him more as the guy that we expected going into the season inside the red zone. Other than that, have David Moore on the field. But when you get in the red zone, Brandon Marshall, use him.
And now with Doug back to be out there as the third down, chain mover, that sort of guy. I don't know that you need Marshall out there quite as much in between the 20s, but down in the red zone. Well, and even still, I want him out there as just that last big-bodied option. He's getting these drops out of the way early. He's always been this way throughout his entire career. He's got some games where he still can go off. It's there.
Well, while we're talking about red zone, I think that's how you win this game against the Rams. You need to be perfect in red zone efficiency. You need to keep penalties down, probably 3-to-1 ratio if you can do that against the Rams team, and keep pace on the third down conversions.
Yeah, absolutely. And
don't put linebackers on wide receivers.
Right. And the Rams are giving up about 50% third downs to their opponents. So just slightly under that. So it's there to be had. This defense hasn't played well. If you look at, I've watched a bit of the Rams this season, a fair amount, and that defense is not playing great.
I think it's because they have to be on the field so much. When you have, and we've seen this with Seahawks teams in the past, right? When you have an offense that is so efficient, we've seen times where Russell Wilson has the offense running on peak efficiency and they drive down the field, boom, 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 and then the defense is back on the field again. And I think that was more kind of the 2015 season, right? Where you looked at that in the way the offense was running, and the defense, they did struggle a little bit that year. And I think that's what you're going to see from the Rams now, too. To have Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald, having to work that hard consistently and be on the field, that amount of time in the game. I guess that takes you back to another point in this game. If you can maintain that time of possession over the Rams too, keep that defense on the field. That's what you need to make the defense a little more beatable.
I think your focus, though, defensively, if you're the Seahawks going into this game, is hopefully your offense can keep them off the field, because that's your best defense, just like you were stating. Mm-hmm. But if I'm looking at them from a defensive perspective, from the Seahawks perspective, it still starts and stops with Todd Gurley. And contain him, don't give anything up over the top, and see if they can dink and dunk you all day long. And if they can, then hats off. But that's my game plan if I'm Ken Norton, is just limit Gurley. We can limit Gurley. We have limited Gurley. We just limited the other next Walter Payton, David Johnson.
Yeah.
So, and the other next Walter Payton and Zeke. And now we're going to do it to the other next Walter Payton in Todd Gurley.
A lot of next Walter Paytons that we've been facing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens every time one of these young backs comes out and has a few good games.
It's interesting how these first 4 or 5 games, it's been the defensive lines we've been facing. And now we're going to start shifting into quarterbacks, because everybody looks at the Seahawks these first few games and they go, oh, who have they faced? Mitchell Trubisky, they faced, Josh Rosen, Dak Prescott, who's not playing as well, and Case Keenum. And so you've had pretty light on the quarterback so far. And now you're going to get into Phillip Rivers, and you have Matt Stafford. You have Jared Goff again, who's, like we mentioned, dropping dimes. Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, and Derek Carr, too, after this week.
Not afraid of Derek Carr.
No.
I'm way less afraid of one-legged Aaron Rodgers. Cam who? And, Goff is going to put up his numbers this year because that's just how they're built. I don't know.
Yeah.
The one that scares me the most is Phil Rivers.
I can see that.
All right, Brandon, any other keys to this game that has been on your mind, things that you have noticed, anything you want the Seahawks to employ specifically? Maybe like more screens?
How about those screens?
You mean the one?
Did they not run 2?
I don't think so.
Okay, they had the one to Mike Davis. It looked successful. Does Russell Wilson not look... I feel like when most quarterbacks run screens, they look like kind of calm in the pocket, like, okay, I'm just going to, I'm throwing it, and then they dump it off to the back. Russell makes it look like it's a lot harder.
I don't know what you're seeing there, really. I haven't gotten that feeling.
It could just be me, because every time I see a screen starting to set up, too, I start getting a little excited, like, oh, they're doing it. They're doing it. Russell, get it to him.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's one of the tougher passes for Russell to throw. Because of the height issue.
Well, over the middle, we've talked about. And I think when you allow 6'5" guys to rush at you with no blocking, he
should be used to that.
Well, he should be, but it makes the throwing lane a little bit harder to find, right?
Ah, true.
You have to make sure you know where the back is and that he's not covered, because that can turn into an easy pick. Pick 6, in fact.
True fact.
You want to make a prediction before we go into the second half?
Yes, I'm going to make a prediction, and everybody's going to hate me for it.
Yeah.
I think we lose this game 27-14.
Wow. I see. When I went on the Rams podcast, I did say that the Rams were going to score 27 points. I feel like holding them under 30, because nobody's held them under 30 yet this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like that's a good start. You need to do that to win, but you also have to score more points than them. And I came up with 26 points for the Seahawks. Okay. 27-26.
Look, we try to give you the straight spit on the podcast, right? And for me to come out and say we're winning every game and all that would be disingenuous. And
they can win this game, though.
Absolutely. It's in range. It's
tied up right now, 0-0.
Yes. But there is a path here where we get absolutely mollywomped in this game.
Well, we saw it last year, and I think that's why it's not hard to envision.
I mean, does that mean I don't have faith? Does that mean that I'm not going to be rooting my butt off? Does that mean I'm not going to wear my hoodie and hat combination that I'm now 2-0 in? No, I'm going to do all that. And I'm going to say, catfish you Rams like a zillion times throughout the game. I promise you.
All right, Adam. Well, as we get into the second half of the show, let's go to Jay Heiler on location at the Seahawks military change of command. He sent in an audio clip of an interview there. Jay was there, and every year the Seahawks and USAA, they honor the military at this change of command ceremony. And so this year, Seahawks players showed up, and they went to Joint Base Lewis McChord. And it was a change of command with the 1st Special Forces Group Airborne, which they held the honor last year, and they turned it over this year to the 62nd Airlift Wing for the Air Force. Let's go to Jay.
Hey, this is Jay Heiler here with the military Seahawkers at JBLM for the 2018 Seattle Seahawks Change of Command celebration. I'm here with Staff Sergeant Gerardo Casabre, Jr. What do you think of the season so far? What's your take on it?
Oh, man, for me, I think we're doing good so far, especially now that we won 2 games in a row. I think we can take on the LA Rams. I'm confident that we'll be back at the playoffs this year.
Over here at the celebration, we got a couple Seahawks players today. Who are you excited to see today?
Oh, of course, man, Griffin, but, because inspiration. But like I said, them coming out here, taking their time to come to the bases, we appreciate it as military personnel. We appreciate players coming down here, visit us, saying hi. So that way it's kind of like an exchange of, appreciation. So, yeah, I'm excited to see everybody, the players and the cheerleaders, of course, too. Yes.
The Seagulls are in the house for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, hey, thank you for your time, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks! Woo!
Getting into the second half of the show. Big game coming up here against the Rams. You can check out the Seahawkers group. They sit down in Touchdown City. I think it's on the south end now where you can find the Seahawkers group there. If you're a member of the military Seahawkers, we're over on 1531 Utah Avenue South. Go hang out with a bunch of military Seahawks fans before the game. Say hi to Tracy over there and enjoy the game while you're there.
Oh, absolutely. Might as well get it in at the beginning of the game, right? Get some beers in you. Enjoy some other fun times with other Seahawks fans.
Make a lot of noise. You got to make this hard for Jared Goff and the Rams.
Yeah. If you're going to this game as a 12, do your job. Do your job.
Make sure you do your job.
Don't make me come down there and yell at you, because I will yell at fans that do not get loud.
Right. Adam does that frequently.
Not frequently. Now that's just
every game that I've gone with you.
I've done it like once in a game. That's not frequent.
Every game. You're 100%. On YouTube from Logan Gill, he leaves a comment, says, I was super excited at the beginning of this season. With this game, I am petrified. I wanted to ask you, Adam, how are you feeling through the first 4 games?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I feel like we're in growth mode, but I like where we're at through a quarter of the season, and I feel like we could see a real turn going into the second half of the season. That's super duper positive, and we're either going to be in the playoffs or just miss it like we did last year by like a game or half a game.
And even with Earl Thomas, it still feels that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking forward to this year. I think we talked about it early on. I kind of expected a 2-3 start. Just because Pete Carroll, he does take some time to get things going. He likes working those young players in, and you do see dividends paid from playing some of these younger guys. Last week, I do recognize not having Deion Jordan out there, not having Rasheem Green, those guys come back in this game against the Rams, and having the 12th man behind them, I think we will start to see maybe more of a pass rush on Goff than we did against Rosen, and we're going to need that too in this game.
Yeah, big time. I did hear some of that Carroll coach speak about, just getting warmed up in the first part of the season and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. Win all the games.
Win all of them. Yeah, you have to wait till the fourth quarter to win.
But at the very least, the Seahawks being 2-2 at this point in the season, again, playing 3 of their first 4 on the road, I feel pretty good about that.
And if you go 2-2 again over this next stretch, like we talked about, you got the Rams, Raiders, Lions, and Chargers. And Rams and Chargers look like the two tougher games. Raiders Lions look like the two easier games. And, maybe they lose to the Lions but beat the Chargers, or you could see a 2-2 stretch over this next game. And then when you start to go down the stretch, that's when the Seahawks start to turn it on, and maybe they go, 2-2 in one stretch, 4-0 in another, or 3-1 over both, or I
can legitimately see a path to 3-1 in this second quarter of the season.
Because if you break it into quarters, you do have in that third quarter of the season, you go on the road to the Rams, but you do have Packers, but that is at home on Thursdays. Generally, home teams on Thursdays perform well. Then you have the Panthers, then you have the 49ers. Got to go on the road for the Panthers, but I don't think they're the team that you're afraid of necessarily like you were in previous years. And then the Vikings, 49ers, Chiefs, and Cardinals in the final quarter. And yeah, we'll see what the Chiefs do in the cold weather in Seattle.
How many of those games are home games in the second half of the season?
Most
I think
of them.
It's 6.
Yeah, the Packers, 49ers, Vikings, Chiefs, and Cardinals.
Okay, so 5. 5 of your last 8 are at home.
5 of your last 8, correct.
That feels pretty good.
Yeah, it's better than the start that they gave us.
Yeah, well, they knew we didn't care to win in the first quarter, so.
Some people who care to win in the first quarter of our Pick'em League got some winners this week. Katie in Seattle gets the overall win with the tiebreaker over Tequila Wasp. 13 games picked correctly this week by Katie.
Whatever. She's a witch. You have to have some supernatural abilities to have picked 13 right last week.
In my experience, calling females witches is doesn't go over well, Adam.
Okay, fine. Katie's magical. Is that better?
I appreciate that.
Okay.
And I hope Katie does too.
Well, that's all I meant.
Yeah, just like you'd call a guy a wizard. Yeah.
Well, weren't all the chicks from like Charmed like witches, right? But they weren't like bad.
Twilight.
Right. A Harry Potter.
Okay, I want to make the distinction.
Okay.
Because, Katie's probably cool.
Well, I know she's magical. 13 picks. That's a bunch of crap.
Among the VIP flockers, $3 and above at gettingtheflock.com. Dustin Mock, Disley's Ill Will, gets the win this week. Associate producer Dustin Mock coming through. Well done.
Yeah, well done, dude. Even though you bought your way to a championship this week, that's fine.
50 points. He nailed the score on Monday night to break the 6-way tie with Pushing Up Flowers, The More the Merrier, Space Needle for lineman D. Weezy, and Sherman's Achilles. So congratulations.
Dustin's a warlock. That's what he is.
Exactly. Or a wizard.
Oh, wait. Just in case you're getting offended, Brandon, all I'm trying to say is Dustin is magical, too.
I don't think that Warlock has the same impact on men when you
sexist. You're absolutely sexist.
Yeah.
See how I turned this around on you? Yeah. How does that feel?
I think I did something similar to you last week, so I probably deserve it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Eat it.
42 points through 4 weeks for the leaders. 5-way tie now for the Russell Wilson limited edition signed print from Keegan Hall. And the leaders are Ty Hawker, Motor Yoda, D. Weezy, Seabass Kicks Ass, and Sherman's Achilles.
Well, congratulations to all of you fakers. That's fine. That's fine.
You got time to come back. Don't get all whiny about being behind by 7 points.
I ain't whiny. I'm just mad at the moment. There's a difference between mad and whiny.
Not with my kids.
I just want to do better. I just need to do better somehow. I don't know. We just did our pick show before we got on the mic for this. And boy, how do you feel about your picks this week, Brandon? Because I could pretty much just light mine on fire, I think, and probably have about the same result.
Yeah, well, because you don't know, even through 4 or 5 weeks, we talk about power rankings and how little they really tell us through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way. We saw 10 risk picks this week. So if you go back, if you get in theflock.com and you listen to our bonus show of the Pick'em, we had 10 risk picks, and that's teams that less than 25% of people overall are picking those teams. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, those are the teams that come up and surprise you. Buffalo came out of nowhere and surprised the Vikings. Yeah. I think people are still down on the Bills, but they have that ability in them to come out and shock somebody if you sleep on them. And that could happen with Denver this week.
Yeah, especially if your defense plays no pass coverage, like the Vikings.
That's kind of important. So this week, I think we did have a couple of risk picks among us, and I did pick Detroit to get the win over Green Bay.
My risk pick this week was Jacksonville to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Great Mahomes.
And the good thing is I'll pick up a win on you there, so that's cool.
We'll see about that.
All right.
I wonder what Jalen Ramsey would have to say about Mahomes at this point.
Oh, yeah? Was he...
I don't know. Don't you remember this offseason where he's like, this guy, trash. That guy, overrated.
I think he was maybe on the too early to tell for... I don't think Mahomes even got a mention with Ramsey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was curious what he'd have to say right now.
Well, I'm curious to watch Pete Prisco moving forward with Patrick Mahomes, because with Mahomes being an outside the pocket thrower, clearly Prisco not a fan. So, Chiefs fan, welcome to the club with Seahawks fans. Now we can gang up together on Prisco.
Absolutely. The enemy of thy enemy is my friend, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, these people are all of our friends as we get to our new members of the flock, Adam.
Oh, really? We actually had some this week?
We did. Yeah, we
haven't been skunked in a long time, so this is good. Call us butter because we're on a roll.
It starts to slow down a little bit as we get into October and November, but people
you
still...
mean Flocktober?
Flocktober. Oh, yeah, this is Flocktoberfest.
Yes.
Time to get in the flock.
How could we slow down in Flocktober?
That's a really good point.
People should be flocking to get into the flock.
In Flocktober.
Come get in the flock. Be cool like Flocktimus Prime.
Lisa Purdon is cool. She got in the flock this week. Actually, it was from her husband, Mike, and her 3 teenage sons. Mike emails in, says, we have 3 teenage sons, and Sundays are all about football in our home. We moved from Seattle to Kelowna in central British Columbia in 2012, and we kept our Hawks season tickets. We have been driving down for games ever since, traveling back and forth over a high mountain pass in crazy winter conditions at times. There is a Discovery Channel show about our route home called Highway Through Hell. We spend 6 hours in the car each way, and your podcasts are always playing. We are serious fans. My beautiful wife, Lisa, might be the best partner ever. She loves the Seahawks and your shows, wears her jersey every weekend, shouts herself hoarse at games, and drives through the snow to get our boys to games when I can't go. She even took our eldest to the Super Bowl parade, and she got to touch the Lombardi trophy. All of that, and she is still as gorgeous as when I met her. She brushed off a terrifying health scare 3 years ago like Baldwin shakes off coverage. Now she is turning 50 on October 4th, and I think she deserves to join the flock. I signed her up for the Ring of Honor today. Happy birthday, Lisa. Love Mike, Max, Simon, and Henry. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, and welcome, Lisa. That's pretty cool. We challenge people to sign up others, in their name, right? Like to go out and be like, no,
yeah,
you need to be part of the flock. And this is beautiful. What an amazing expression of his love for Lisa there. And look, I'm glad you locked that up because she sounds like a keeper, and we'll keep her in the Ring of Honor. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, yeah. He wanted us to wait until her birthday. And October 4th is when the episode should drop. So Lisa will be hearing this on her birthday if she's a true fan of the show and listening, as soon as it comes out.
Merry birthday to Lisa.
And if you're traveling to the game, holding on and waiting to travel to the game, happy belated birthday, Lisa.
Yeah, which doesn't sound quite as exciting, but we care.
I'm saying that it sounds like the drive over the pass is a good time to listen to the show.
Oh, sure. It keeps your mind off the terror of falling off a cliff.
And if it's anything like Montana, they probably have snow on that pass now. I was driving around town this week, and I saw dudes with their tailgates were coated in snow.
That's right.
It's October.
It's coming.
Yeah.
This has been great. It got cool early. Oh, I'm so happy.
Dean Furlonger got in the flock as well at 12:12. Says, guys, I've been following the Seahawks since last season, following a trip to Seattle with work. I found your podcast in the offseason and have been hooked ever since. Still learning the ins and outs of the game, but listening to the podcast is both informative and hilariously entertaining. You've given me enough hours of entertainment that I can no longer freeload. Looking forward to seeing the Seahawks at Wembley. Death to visors. Go Hawks.
See, Dean and I, we're kindred spirits. I know that. Thank you for coming up with my next campaign slogan for when I run for office, and that will be Death to Visors. I appreciate the fact that he finds this hilarious. You may go have a mental health examination.
Hilariously entertaining.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things that you put up on the poster to advertise. Like,
right, that's like it goes on the back of your book that you write.
And hilariously entertaining from Dean.
It says Dean, super fan and in the flock.
Dupre in Bermuda. We read his email last week. He sent in $5 thanks to Dupre.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I'm glad you didn't get washed away yet.
Yeah, and I'm glad I got the name pronunciation correct now.
Oh, well done.
Patrick Elaine in the flock at $3. So stickers and pick 'em lead. Welcome to the flock, Patrick.
Heck yeah, man. What is that now? Is that four new flockers that you've introduced so far? How many more? How deep does this go, Brandon?
Well, Chris Baldwin gave us a raise 1 to 3. So thanks to Chris.
He just wants to get on those sweet
prizes.
Pick 'em league.
Yeah, Jim Zorn
prizes.
autographed jersey this week.
Yes, it's very cool.
So an autographed replica jersey by Jim Zorn. Adam is going to have one hanging up in his podcast studio next to his Largent jersey here pretty soon. And yeah, this will be, I thought for the Rams, because if you need any extra incentive to pick the Seahawks, they are a risk pick this week, only 15% going with the Seahawks. And so I wanted to make sure that our winners, they had the extra incentive with the Jim Zorn signed jersey. Because you don't want the Malik McDowell autographed card.
Although I have a feeling if there's a week that you're going to send that out, I think this could be the week.
This could be the week. Someone who maybe didn't listen to the show, they think, oh yeah, this is the week that the Seahawks get beat. I'm going to go ahead and pick them. Hey, if I have to offload it this week, that's on them. It's not on me.
Yeah, you're not sad to mail that out and not have a Malik McDowell signed rookie card in your possession?
Would I rather have a Jim Zorn signed jersey or an autographed rookie card from Malik McDowell?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a pretty tough decision.
Difficult.
I mean, one takes up significantly more space, I guess, but
right.
That's maybe where the positives end.
Well, cool. Well, that was great to have that many folks get in the flock this week.
And now we got some email.
All right.
Starting with Vidar in Reykjavik, Iceland, who got in the flock last week. I missed his note, so I'm going to read it this week. Says, I'm a listener of the show since 2015 and just started supporting it, which was overdue. I'm originally from Iceland, but after moving to Portland in 2011, I became a hardcore Seahawks fan. My family and I just moved back to Iceland last winter, and my main concern about the move was, how can I stay in touch with everything Seahawks? How can I go to a Seahawks game? You guys have been an absolute lifeline for Seahawks content, and holy Michael Dixon, I was happy to hear about the Seahawks coming to London. I wish I could pay you guys in our local currency, but unfortunately Patreon doesn't accept Monopoly money. Thanks for the awesome podcast, and go Hawks from Vidar.
That's pretty funny. Go Hawks. It's nice to be able to help out those folks that end up away from the Seattle area, keep up on the Seahawks and everything. Apparently it gets tough out there.
Well, Bryson from Eltopia, Washington, saying it's tough. He's at Bruce Tank on Twitter, says, hey, gents, rough win for sure. Only thing that's keeping me from being negative about the cost of that W is thinking about the solid gear, stickers, patch, etc. that comes with being a fellow Seahawker / little flocker. Just kidding, but seriously, I want to flaunt my Hawkra. Thanks, from Bryson. And Bryson joined the flock a couple weeks ago. And yes, at the end of the month is usually when I get that in. And so that should be getting in the mail a little bit later this week or this weekend. So look for it next week, Bryson. And that goes for everybody who got in the flock here in September.
Yeah, I think we forget to mention sometimes the amount of swag that you can get depending on the level that you donate at. And the patches are super cool. The stickers are sweet. Geez Louise, all you have to do is donate $1. You get the bonus show and the stickers.
And the stickers.
Yeah. And you get us closer to our march to 600 patrons. And that will get some video action of me and Brandon going here on the podcast. Somehow that didn't feel like a selling point.
I don't know. I think some people it is.
Okay.
Generally, people who go to YouTube, they like seeing video.
That's true. I do watch some podcasts, but unfortunately, like you could make it work, but I don't know that I got a face for video, man.
Oh, well. You just have to back the camera up far enough.
I'm working on it.
Jake in San Diego says, I'm Jake, HM1, and that's a corpsman in the Navy for you, Adam.
Okay, what in the heck is a corpsman?
Medical person.
There you go. Yeah. Bring it down to even more layman's terms. Now we're good.
Dr. Jake.
Yeah, there. That's all I needed.
Active duty stationed down in sunny San Diego. Longtime follower from the Facebook page, but newly a subscribed follower on the podcast. I wanted to say thank you for doing the show and that I found you guys when my fantasy football group convinced me podcasts are awesome. So when I deployed on the ship and found Wi-Fi and port, I could download your show and listen to one episode a day while underway to break up the daily BS of ship life. I'm too poor to donate on the podcast, but I do love the show and have been telling my SoCal Hawkers to check you guys out. Thanks again. Go Hawks from Jake.
Hey, thanks, Jake. Appreciate it, man. That's all you got to do. Just pass the word along. That's about 2/3 as awesome as donating to the show, and we'll take it. Just so Dr.
I don't know
Jake
why
knows,
you have to put.
No, just so Dr. Jake knows, he's a third of a freeloader.
That makes total sense. The math checks out.
It does.
Last email here from Nathan in Bloomfield. Says, okay, it's 3 days after the game, and I'm still ticked off about one play in particular. Can someone please explain to me why on 3rd and 1, why don't we run the ball? Davis had been consistently picking up at least 4 yards, so you put the ball in his arms and let him easily pick up the first, right? Nope. Pete has another shoddy call and passes the ball, which of course doesn't work, and we give the Cardinals the ball. Then march down the field, score a touchdown, and quite possibly end Earl Thomas's career as a Seattle Seahawk. I know there was no way Pete and Schottenheimer could never have predicted this, but they should have predicted that the longer the offense is on the field, the less tired the defense is, the less chance the defense will get hurt. Run the ball! Go Hawks from Nathan.
Oh, am I supposed to explain that? Because I'm every bit as perplexed.
Oh, if we're explaining why he's still upset about it, no,
we are too.
That makes total sense.
No, why don't we do that? I don't know. You can't go read option there. You can't go quarterback sneak. You can't. Heck, we even had a Trey Madden run on 3rd and short last game. No, couldn't do that. Yeah, I don't know.
I know we don't talk about the Pro Football Focus numbers a lot, but I did look at Trey Madden and his pass block grade. Mm-hmm. And there
is there a negative number?
It was 3.8. And that's not out of 5. That's out of 100.
Right. Yes, Clinton Bonner's favorite whipping boy, Trey Madden.
Yeah. Like 3.8 is an okay-ish review on Amazon.
Right. That's an abject disaster in PFF ratings.
Yes. Got to do better.
Yeah, I'd say.
On to do better.
All right, Brandon, my do better this week is going to be for two guys that this actually pains me to call them out.
Oh.
Because there are 3 people in this world that I would say really inspired me to start this podcast with you, listening to their podcasts. One of them would be Jalen Rose. We all know about that a little bit. One of them would be Tony Kornheiser. And for those of you not familiar with Uncle Tony Kornheiser, he's a crotchety old man who does sports talk radio from Washington and also co-hosts of PTI. But once upon a time, when I first started listening to sports talk radio back in like 2000, somewhere back in there, it was Tony Kornheiser who had the first segment in the morning, the first show that Colin Cowherd later took over when he moved on. So Tony was one of the very first guys that I ever listened to. Find him stuff funny. I like him a lot. And the third being Bill Simmons. And most of you are aware of the Bill Simmons podcast, and it's a large podcast. And I generally think he is oftentimes very, very smart and funny about football. But this week, Tony Kornheiser came on the Bill Simmons podcast, and the two of them started spouting blasphemy in the ears. And it's just, it makes your ears burn to hear statements like this.
I'm starting to wonder, and I felt this way heading in this season because I really thought the Rams were going to be great, and I picked them to win the Super Bowl. Not that I'm right all the time, but I really did believe that he was special and that they had a ton of talent. And now I'm starting to think, when you're just watching how they're decimating all these teams, that you had Bill Walsh in the 80s, you had Belichick basically in the 2000s catching the league at this time when physicality and defense and strategy and depth and being able to manipulate the salary cap. All of these things he was really good at. He showed up at the perfect time and was able to have this sustained period of dominance. And now you have McVay, who's clearly, a little Bill Walshian. I hate to say that, but I really think he is.
Well, but his grandfather was Bill Walsh's partner.
Beep, back the truck up. Did he just compare the frat boy Sean McVay, who has been a head coach for approximately, 20 games, to Bill Walsh, maybe the greatest offensive innovator in the past 40 years of football, and then Bill Belichick, the man who has run the most long-standing dynasty in the salary cap era? Did he compare those two Hall of Fame greats, arguably two of the top 5 coaches of all time, to Sean Catfish McVay at this point? Holy catfish! Everybody needs to slow their roll by 1,000,000%. Let's let this thing play out for maybe 10 years or so. He's been doing this for 20 games, and he's Bill Walshian?
Well, you don't even have to let it go 10 years. I mean, win a Super Bowl at the end of the season, and then maybe have a discussion.
Then maybe you're starting to become in that discussion, but good Lord, this fawning over the catfishing Rams has to stop. And for two of my radio icons to just basically bow at the altar of the McVay, do better.
I can see how that would be hard for you, man. That two guys that you look up to, and now they're talking about one of the teams that you have the most sports hate for.
I pulled over the car and yelled at this stereo in the car.
I thought our relationship meant something. I thought I knew who you guys were.
Yeah, what is yellow and blue? Yeah, yellow and blue together makes green, right? So they must be drinking green Kool-Aid at all times. Good Lord. I mean, McVay is Walshian and is manipulating this era like Bill Belichick manipulated the last 14 years. Are you kidding me?
I mean, it could work out that way.
No.
I hope not.
No. That's not happening.
Well, my do better this week. Last week we heard in the news that history was about to be made, and there would be the first all-female broadcasting team covering an NFL game with Hannah Storm and Andrea Kramer from the booth. And I thought, this is a pretty cool milestone. But maybe even cooler was the fact that we wouldn't have to listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman in the booth on Thursday night.
They're not the worst.
But when I tuned in, that's exactly what I heard on that Thursday night game with the Rams and Vikings.
Right.
So I didn't realize that this was some kind of Amazon only thing. And then apparently, if you tuned in to Amazon to get it, it just defaulted to the Buck and Aikman audio anyway. So even if somehow you knew that you had to specifically go to Amazon to hear the audio with Hannah and Andrea, it wasn't immediately apparent how to make that happen either. So people were posting screenshots about how you had to go into the settings and they had to select a separate audio feed within the Amazon settings and change it so you could hear the Hannah Storm and Andrea Kramer audio and not Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. So congrats to all 12 of you who had the chance to hear this apparently historic broadcast. Amazon, NFL, and Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. You all need to do better.
Well, it's not exactly like they were like, no, our commentary
It's
first.
their fault too. I'm putting it on them.
Well, I can imagine how difficult that was for people to even find to begin with, because I have Amazon Prime, correct?
Yeah.
And I went to watch that game and I was like, I had been looking up something on Amazon just like prior to the game, and it was like, hey, you want to watch the game? You can watch it right here on Amazon Prime. Well, gosh diggity, that'll be great. Like, poked on that. Guess what it says? It's out of stock. Whatever that means.
The game was out of stock?
You can't, I think it was blacked out in my area, but that was their way of saying that. But like all the comments on there is like, why do you advertise this on your banner if I can't watch it? Like, The thousands of them.
Yeah.
Just that I can't watch it on this, even though I'm paying the money and you're advertising it. So to even get to that point, let alone get to the where you actually could click on it and then watch the game, like that was hard enough. Let alone getting to the fact that you're like, oh, I wanted to listen to, the female broadcast. Nope, couldn't find it. Like that's bad news, man. They need to fix something here.
Trey Madden will be happy to hear that something on Amazon has a lower ranking than his pass blocking grade.
There you go.
It'll be the Thursday Night Football out of stock.
Speaking of this blackout stuff, how is it that the local stations, since you're blacked out, so you have to watch it on your local station?
Yeah.
How come the local stations don't stream it? Like, it's being broadcast for free over the airwaves. Now, in places such as, like, I don't know, Pullman, Washington, Missoula, Montana, Phillipsburg, Montana, it's very difficult to get the over-the-air broadcast, believe it or not, like over an antenna.
Yeah.
There's mountains and crap in the way, and your antennas are forever away. What, I have to buy cable to watch your local station? No, you're broadcasting it for free. How come I can't find a free stream on your website where I watch the commercials that you've sold? That's the entire point, right?
Yeah.
Why not give me that option?
And they have the ability to know that you're within the local area.
Correct.
Because they black it out outside of the area for the streams.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't understand this for the life of me.
They're behind the time.
Why is it so freaking hard to watch an in-region game?
Hey, Adam, why did it take our local TV stations an extra 10 years to get HD?
Because it doesn't matter. I don't find HD to be revolutionary, really, in my honest opinion, but whatever. All right, Brandon, my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for a collaboration between a few different space agencies, the Japanese Space Agency and the French and German Space Agency. They have put together a probe called the Hayabusa probe.
You nailed it.
Hayabusa 2 probe.
Hayabusa. I bet that's what it is.
There we go. And they launched this towards a asteroid called Ryugu. The thing arrived here just in the last few days. The probe did, and they shot out a lander onto the asteroid, which they landed on the asteroid called Mascot. That one's a lot easier to say. Mascot's super cool because it's actually got a few different scientific instruments on it that are going to help try to get some data from this asteroid. And what that will do is it's going to shed some light about the origins of the solar system. And then also, too, like what sort of mineral makeups of these asteroids that there are out there. Is that something that we could eventually mine? There's a lot of information to be gathered here. But this Mascot probe, it takes images at multiple wavelengths and has a microscope to investigate different materials on there. And it also takes temperature readings and reads magnetic fields. It's actually going to perform a jump once while it's on the asteroid because it has low gravity. It's going to kind of shoot up in the air, move to a different spot, taking pictures along the way. The probe itself has a gun on it. They call it an impactor, and they're going to shoot the asteroid with a 2-kilo copper bullet, blast a little crater in it, take the samples out of there. These will be samples that are millennia old that haven't been subjected to radiation or solar wind and things of that nature. It's going to be really cool. And so for advancing knowledge and getting us way out there into space, once again, these guys are better at life than Skip Bayless.
This is pretty cool. I'm looking at pictures from the surface of an asteroid on this BBC News article. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's what that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about what must all go into that just to get a little mechanism on an asteroid.
Yes. Yeah, I keep looking for Bruce Willis in these pictures and see if he's walking around down there like I expect him to be. Well, see, that's the other thing about this that they don't mention in the article, but these sort of missions are important. If we do see a big impactor coming our way, it's important for us to do these sort of things so we maybe have some options as to how to deal with it.
Well, if, for example, if the impactor is used and it can measure any kind of noticeable change in direction from making any kind of impact on it.
Right.
Never know.
A lot of different things there. So that was my better at life this week.
Hey, baby steps to protecting us from Armageddon. And you know what it started with? The movie Armageddon.
That's right.
I could stay awake.
I was waiting to see if it was going to be you or me. I don't want to close my eyes.
I don't want to fall asleep because I'll miss you, babe.
Don't want to miss a thing. I hate Aerosmith so much.
Oh, I saw them in concert. They're really good.
I'm surprised your ears still function.
One of my favorite shows.
I don't know that we can be friends anymore. This might have been the last episode of the Seahawks podcast, people. Yeah.
If I have to choose between you and Aerosmith, Adam.
You're choosing Big Mouth Steven Tyler in his like weirdo dances?
I think I've had enough.
Oh, okay, good.
My better life this week is for Seabass. Kicking the game-winning field goal down in Arizona. Yeah, I know, he missed 2, and so did Phil Dawson. But for Seabass to come through, get the game-winning kick with 4 seconds left, to give us that moment with Dave Wyman, just emphatically, enthusiastically excited about the kick going through the uprights. That was worth it in the moment itself. And we've always talked about this theme on the show, Adam. Winning is better than losing. Can you imagine if that kick did not go through the uprights and that the Seahawks are 1-3 going into this week against the Rams?
I would be in a really dark place right now.
So
yeah,
it's better to win than lose. And it's better with Seabass kicking another 50-yard field goal and going through the uprights to get the win. And I'm tagging this on top of it too. Russell Wilson, most wins out of any quarterback too this week. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah, one of those stats that like that's the next most worthless one right behind yards, right?
Yeah, but you're talking about quarterbacks like Dave Craig, Matt Hasselbeck. Guess who has more wins? Russell Wilson.
Russell Carrington Wilson.
It's a longevity stat, but it's fine.
And you're better alive than Skip Bayless. Sebastian Janikowski helped deliver this.
And so, for Sebastian Janikowski, not only kicking the game-winning field goal, getting us the win to 2-2, also gets the win for Russell Wilson and puts him over the top. Sebastian Janikowski, better at life than Skip Bayless.
And to be fair on those 2 misses, there was some pressure being applied. We talked a little bit about Patrick Peterson racing in on one edge on one, but that second miss, there was also some pressure. So some work for Brian Schneider to go back to the drawing board and see if they can't shore that up a little bit.
Well, and Seabass, they interviewed him after the game, said it was kind of a mental thing for him too.
That's not all he said. They said, kind of a wild day for you, huh, Seabass? He was like, no catfish.
Well, here he is, Jen Mueller, interviewing Seabass on the field after the win.
All right, your teammates said that they had no doubt. How about you when you line up for that
one? I'll never have doubt. I mean, I have a rough day. Missing the first one, then the 52, but make a little adjustment in the locker room, just move on.
What is the adjustment?
Mental. I know I'm physical, I can do it, but it's mental.
How much do you draw in just being in this position so many times during the course of your career?
I'm getting used to it. I just love it, That's why I love this game. That's why I'm still playing.
There's so many things that happen in this game. How did you see toughness come through in your teammates today?
Guys stick together. Defense, offense, special teams. We didn't play probably our best game, especially, me kicking the ball, but, hey, we came through.
How about you go celebrate this one with your teammates, Jano?
Yeah, thank you.
Having to yell during that interview over the cheers of Seahawks fans there in Arizona even.
That's true. You kind of heard that throughout the game, too. I mean, the 12s were there loud and proud, and that was really fun as well.
Well, some loud and proud 12s to mention on the way out the door. We mentioned it at the first of the month. Let's get to it. Our monthly thank you of our members of the flock at 12 and above. Let's kick it off with those who sent in their voice intros.
Get ready for showtime.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Annalisa Mickelson, a.k.a. Mrs. Doug Baldwin, New York, undergrad, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, graduate school, Brooklyn College.
Eric Trench, rooting for the Seahawks out of Renton, Washington, graduated from Eastern Washington University.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
David Bloomquist, Hong Kong Hawk. Masheng Yishu She Ye.
Kevin Stedham, Keene, Texas. Ella Esparza, Woodway, Texas, Yale University, and Sam Houston State, Eat 'em Up Cats.
Lisa in Seattle.
Sam Sullivan from the wonderful land of Oz, the Forte State University.
Paul from San Diego.
Vincent Parker, Emily Carr, University of Art Design, RN Collective.
Jameson Holman from Murray, Utah, representing Mississippi State University. Hail State and go Hawks.
Associate producer Dustin Mock, Paul in Minneapolis, Dave in Camas, John in New York, Pepper in Greenville, South Carolina. We got Ross in Eureka, California, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Summer in Vancouver, Washington, Sven in Teltow, Deutschland, James in Linwood, Rochelle in Federal Way, Young in Anchorage, Mark in Curepe, Western Australia, Rebecca in Manhattan Beach, California, Tim in Austin, Kathy in Eureka, California, Garrett in Northern Ontario, John Paul in Palmer, Alaska, Joshua in London, Brandon in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Crystal in Oldsmere, Florida, Christian in Bergen, Norway, David in Florence, South Carolina, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Washington, Craig in Pasco, Thomas in the Bronx, Vincent in Vancouver, BC, Glenn in St. Cloud, Florida, Hector in Van Nuys, California, Leland in West Jordan, California, Jared in Missoula, Taylor in Federal Way, Keegan in Colorado Springs, John in Pierce, Nebraska, Kari in Rochester, Washington, Michael in Tucson, Jeff in Waddell, Arizona, Owen in Ashburn, Ireland, Gary in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Eric in Seattle, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Max in Honolulu, Dean somewhere in the UK, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Brian in the Greater Hawkdom, JC in Billericay, Great Britain, Brian in Sugarland, Texas, Taylor in South Cle Elum, Tyler in Puyallup, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, and Lisa in Kelowna, BC. Once again, happy birthday, Lisa, and thanks to all of our little flockers.
You guys are awesome. Usually I praise you here, but for those of you who have not recorded your own intro, shame on you and do better. I'm very mad at you guys right now, even though you guys are basically, of course, like in the Ring of Honor. So you're Hall of Famers when it comes to the podcast. But I needed an increased effort. Like, just get on the memo thingy on your phone, record it, send it in. It's super easy.
Or call us, 253-235-9041, and leave a recording there.
And you know what? You can do that. Leave a message and we play it on the show, just like we did for Matt in Arizona this week. It's a segment that I'm excited to grow. So help us out with that. Thank you to all. And catfish the Rams.
Catfish the Rams. And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. And catfish Rams, in case we weren't clear.
Catfish the Rams.